Hello, welcome to your video on similar figures. You will be able to identify similar and congruent figures and use proportions to find missing lengths of those similar figures. Vocabulary that you need to know. First, similar means they have the same angles, degrees, the same shape, they are just different sizes. The example here would be the arrows, because they are the exact same. They have all the exact same angles, they're the same shape, they're just different sizes. In this one you can even rotate it to make it bigger. Either way, it's still exactly the same thing if it were to shrink back down or be enlarged. Next one, congruent means the exact same shape, the exact same size, and the exact same angles. In other words, it is a clone, and that's what's represented here by these stars. If I put them one on top of each other, they are the same thing. Doesn't matter if one turns at all. It is identical, same shape, same size. All right, in this question, similar, congruent, or neither, I have a triangle here. You may notice, though, that it's rotated and positioned a little bit differently, and that doesn't matter so much as long as you can see what the relationships are. So here I have a right angle here, and I have a right angle here. So essentially, this triangle stays the same. This one, we have to kind of reposition so that it looks like this. And when we do that, this is Z, this is Y, and this is X. This is A, C, and B. And then if we can compare those, we can see that they have the exact same angles. And then you're looking to see the proportional relationships. So if I were to compare this side, so 24, and then the hypotenuse there, so the long side would be 40. If that equals the 15 to the 25, if this is the same thing, it would be similar. It's not congruent because they're not the same size, so we can eliminate that right away. But similar would be just scaled down. So if they're proportional, they're the same, they're similar. And we can scale this down, so 24 divided by 2 is 12 over 20. And then this, I could divide by 5, I would get 3 over 5. And I can scale this one down even more. I can divide by 4, and I would get 3 over 5. And that is the same, so these two triangles are in fact similar. First question is, how do I find a missing side of a similar figure? So now that when we know a figure is similar, we can find and solve proportions to find the missing length. What you're going to have happen here is you're going to still want to include labels. So the height over the length, and it doesn't really matter, you can flip-flop these around, so you could put length over height, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you're putting numbers in the right spots. So the height of this one that we know is 2 centimeters, and the length that we know is 10 centimeters, equals the height of the larger rectangle, which is X, and the length of the larger, which is 20 centimeters. We have our proportion, and now we can solve. So I can either go up and down or across. This time, to mix it up, I'm going to go up and down. You can go which way works for you. But 10 divided by 5 gives me 2. So 20 divided by 5 will give me my answer, which is X equals 4 centimeters. Alright, here's another example for you. Sometimes your shapes will be similar, they just will be turned or rotated. Like in this example here, you know that it's rotated because if you look at your 90-degree angle here, you can see that they're not quite lined up, but there are some distinguishing features, and if you just look at the lengths and the sides and how they appear, you should be able to figure out what matches with what. In this case, I know that this is my short side, and so this 6 is going to match and correspond with the Y. I have my 14 here, which is the longer side, That's going to correspond with the 10, and then the leftover piece is obviously my x corresponding with my 12 because they're both the hypotenuse, the diagonal there. So because now that I've matched everything, I know what's what, I can write proportions to solve for the missing length. Let's solve for y here. So I'm going to start with y, my first triangle. Everything in my first triangle is going to be my first proportion. So y, and then I'm going to pick something I know, so 14 equals, and then y was the green, so I need my 6 because that was green, and then 14, and so I need my 10. So here's my proportion. I can actually simplify this down, and I'm going to. So y over 14 equals, and if I divide by 2, I get 3/5. Now, that's not entirely helpful because we still have to solve this, and it's not super easy math, but I can find my unit rate, so I can find what 1 is. So 3/5, and then over 1, I'm going to divide by 5 on both sides. So 3 divided by 5 is going to give me 0.6. Now that I know my unit rate, I can take that and go all the way back to my original problem. So going from 1 to 14, I multiplied by 14. So now I'm going to take 0.6 and multiply it by 14. And I get an answer of 8.4. So y equals 8.4. In other words, this length here is 8.4. The next one I'm going to do is solve for x, doing the same thing. So this one was 8.4, like we said. X here, and another part that I know, I'm going to use 14. So that's my first triangle. My second triangle corresponding with x is 12. And then what corresponded with 14 was 10. And now I can reduce this. I have, and you might be able to know here your rule of 10, this is multiplying by 1.4. If you didn't know that, you could simplify your fraction or find the unit rate. But we're going to go ahead and use this. So 12 times 1.4 will give me my answer, which is 16.8. So x equals 16.8. And then you'd want to label it whatever it is. These ones don't have labels, but in most situations they'll have a label to go with. So x was 16.8. Now I found all the sides of my triangle using proportions. It is your turn. Please find the missing length in these similar figures using proportions. Be assured you are including labels so that you are not confusing yourself. We will go over the answer in class. This is the end of your video. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.